This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are back, Mark.
Yes.
Like me, myself, you, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has been weird. So, for the last, 2 podcasts? We did the AFC East.
Yep.
Was both you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Then the NFC East was you were over here.
Yep.
Sean was over there.
I was on the wrong side of the table.
And then the AFC North, it was I was over here, but you were not here with me. You went and saw Russell Wilson without me.
Yep.
You went to visit Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
I hear Richard
It
Sherman wasn't in town.
He was not. I had asked if he could hang out with us as well, and he was not available.
But I do hear that, Cam Chancellor's still there. The boys are still in town in Seattle, but it's good to have you back here on the Onside Kick, where we talk everything that's good in the NFL, continuing our NFL previews, and we are looking forward again. And this time we are looking at to me, Mark, I am biased when I say this, the best division in all of football. The one that not only does my favorite team reside in, your favorite team resides in, a division that both you and I live in because we live in Illinois, so we live and breathe this division.
Yep.
It's the NFC North. That's what
right.
we're looking at today. We're going to be looking at all 4 teams, starting with the low, going up to the high. So I get to sit back and wait until we talk about my favorite team. We get to talk about Mark's favorite team up first. But before we get into those teams, let me take you through a little bit of housekeeping. And if you guys are watching and supporting, thank you guys for supporting us on YouTube and iTunes and podcast services around the world. But if you want to help support us more than you already are, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We have a $10 tier where you can come and join a podcast and talk about whatever topic you would like. That link down below in the description. We also have our store where you can get our own MVP t-shirt. You can also get that on mostvaluablepodcast.com, where you can catch MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you're on iTunes, make sure to go and give the Onside Kick and all the MVP podcasts a 5-star rating. And then tell us why you love listening to the podcast each and every week. But Mark, let's get into everything. We're going to start with your team, the Bears.
It's the way to start.
I'm going to ask you this to start.
Yes.
What should, with you being the Bear fan in the room, what should be the realistic expectations for Matt Nagy and this offense? Because Trey Burton today, he's saying that tons, and I'm using air quotes because he said quotes, there are tons of similarities between the Eagles and the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, really the realistic expectations, Super Bowl win for the Bears.
Super Bowl, Super Bears?
Yep. Go with the perfect season. 18-1. 18-1, perfect season. The joke's always more fun when Sean's here to make it at. But no, I think a very realistic expectations for the Bears. And coming off of a 5-11 season, but with changes, with new players, with a lot of adapting, 7-8 wins. I hate to say it because I am a Chicago Bears fan. I own a Mitch Trubisky jersey.
Are you saying like realistic, like, yes, we're going to win 7 or 8, or like that's our top end?
I say that is the realistic. I could see the Bears being a 7 or 8 win team. That is not a,
for sure.
Put your money on 5 wins because I guarantee you we're getting 5.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like with this schedule, because it is a more difficult schedule than last season, the Bears could sit there and be a 5-win team again. And that's not a bad thing. I knew that this was going to come up. Ricky, earlier today, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say about the Bears, and I'm like, people are going to get mad because I'm going to talk about moral victories again. And people get so mad when I do it. But as long as this team looks better, that is okay with me as a Chicago Bears fan. That is okay with me as somebody talking about the Bears because, let's face it, They're going to play a lot of difficult teams. The NFC North is a very good division. They're going to have to play the Patriots, the Seahawks. They're going to have to go and play old Adam Gase, the old offensive coordinator with the Dolphins.
Let's just say you're going to have to play the entire NFC West.
Yes.
Like, besides the Cardinals, the rest of those 3 games, and even the Cardinals, depending on what kind of a quarterback they throw out there.
But this is week 3, so
it could be Josh Rosen.
It could be Sam Bradford still playing because he is still healthy. Really, when you look at the schedule, and I mean no offense to any teams, the only games that you sit there and feel very confident if you're a Bears fan are probably things like Buccaneers, Cardinals, Dolphins, Jets, Bills. I just named 5 teams. Maybe you can throw the Giants in there.
I would not throw the Giants in there.
I wouldn't either. I like the Giants this year. I'm giving you 5 games where I'm sitting there saying the Bears should walk in there and feel confident that they can win those games. It's not a guarantee they're going to win them, but I said 5. That means there's 11 other games where we're sitting there going, hey, if the Bears win this one, be happy.
Well, and for me with the Bears, the thing is, like, when you say moral victories, yeah, that's kind of what this season is going to be.
You just want to see a team getting better.
You do want to see it be you get more wins, because I'll be completely honest. When I was a Viking fan and we were more towards the not dead last, but was like, wow, we are obviously behind the top 2 teams in the division. It was no fun. Like, it's no fun looking at this team and going, you know what? When are we going to get back to the 10 wins, the playoffs, being contenders in this tough NFC? But to me, the big thing with the Bears is the offense is going to be better. The defense should be just as good because you got good pieces coming in.
You had plus a top 10 defense. You got a new
Vic
center.
Staying and that whole system.
By center, I mean Roquan Smith.
Yeah. Here's the thing with the whole team. You said it's a schedule. You're not beating when I say you're not beating the Vikings twice, I will put an asterisk next to the week 11 game because I know there's always a chance that the Bears upset us in Chicago at Soldier Field. I know there's always that chance.
Yeah.
You almost did it last year. You usually find a way to upend us in Chicago. So, although I say you're not beating the Vikings, that's a Viking game where the Vikings are coming off of a bye, so maybe that plays into it as well. But I always put an asterisk next to that game. Then you got the Packers. As long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy this year, the Bears are not beating the Packers.
I actually think the Bears have a decent shot against the Packers because of the defense.
That leaves the Lions.
As long as Nagy's offense is going to actually perform at a level where it can keep up with a high-powered offense.
See, and I don't think that the Bears are going to be able to keep up with Aaron Rodgers. He will be the different factor.
The fortunate thing is...
the X factor is what I'm saying.
Week 1, it's at Lambeau. That's a loss. I'm okay with it being a loss as long as the team starts looking good.
Might even be the Packers are trying to fight for playoff position
possible.
Too.
Hey, I don't care if we win 5 games this season. If the Chicago Bears can be the reason that makes one of the reasons, but the reason that the Packers don't make the playoffs, that's a Super Bowl victory.
Yeah.
I feel good about that. That's good. The thing for the Bears is they have this good defense. It really comes down to 2 things. Is Matt Nagy going to be the real deal? Is he actually going to be a good coach? Because he just is this hotshot offensive coordinator. Those don't always pan out. And 2, is Mitch Trubisky actually going to be the quarterback of the future? Because they have all these weapons for him to throw the ball to. They have 2 great, completely different running backs out there. The offensive line it could be better, but it is a good, above average offensive line. And people and Chicago Bears fans are probably going to get mad at me for just saying it's above average. But there are some things that I need to see get better. The defense, I can't say enough good things about the defense with maybe an exception of the defensive backs, but they played their hearts out last year. So really it just comes down to that. Trubisky's got to be really good with the ball. He's got to come off strong. He's been putting in a lot of work in the film room and watching and doing all that he can to come out there and be that leader. Year 2, the teammates have already said they love what they see out of him. He really is taking command. All that's great. But we saw some good moments. We saw some bad moments last year. This year, we need to see less bad moments, and we need to see a lot more good moments because it's not John Fox saying, I'll let him throw 7 times. It's going to be Matt Nagy saying, I'm going to let him throw 30 times.
To me, the focal point for me with the Bears when I'm watching them this year will not be the defense. I will not be focusing on the defense only because I'm not worried about the defense in Chicago.
Yeah.
The thing that I want to see is this offense because the reason is me not being the Bear fan in the room, all I've heard this offseason, got the new high-flying offense for Nagy's system. Mitch Trubisky going to make the next step in his second year. Then you've got look, we got Allen Robinson, we got Taylor Gabriel, we got Kevin White coming back to be these main weapons for Mitch Trubisky. Look at that at tight end. We bring in Trey Burton to be the guy at tight end for us. I need to see this offense. If I'm a Bear fan, I need to see this offense put up points. Because I look at last year, and I'll just read down the total in both wins and losses.
Yeah.
17, 7, 23, 14, 17, 27, 17, 12, 16, 24, 3, 14, 33, 10, 20, and 10.
It's a top 10 defense last year.
One time they scored over 30 points. Only 2 other times they scored over 20 points.
Well, yeah, you're talking about the offensive side.
Yeah.
You got a top 10 defense here. This offense is going to have to
put
play
points on the board.
Because this was the worst passing game in the NFL last year. And part of that is you have a rookie. The other part is you have a coach that doesn't want to pass the ball. Then you give him a rookie, and he really doesn't want to pass the ball. I mean, you had...
Well, and that's what I'm saying. With Nagy this year, then, the biggest change I need to see
is from
John Fox to Nagy is putting points up on the board and helping out that defense.
The Bears last year scored an average of about 2 touchdowns a game. That's pathetic. That's absolutely pathetic. You're not going to win games like that. You're not going to win
games doing that.
Yeah, your top 10 defense is giving up an average of about 3 touchdowns a game. And that's a top 10 defense. That's an issue. You know, like I said, it's the worst passing game in the NFL. And they didn't throw for yards. They didn't throw for very many touchdowns. The running game bailed out the Bears plenty of times. And Mitch Trubisky, when he come in, like I said, he had some great moments. He made some great throws. A lot of the issues that we also saw with Mitch Trubisky was simply not his fault because passes were dropped. That's not his fault. He did everything he needed to do, but he also made some dumb rookie decisions because he was a rookie. Coming in this year, you're hoping he watches that tape. I think that, you know, a guy you don't mention, but I think will make a good addition on the offensive side is Anthony Miller. That's going to be a really great receiving option for him. I mentioned the offensive line. I need to see a little bit better. Whitehair did not play as well as he did at his first year at center. Second year at center, he somehow forgot how to snap the ball. Part of that could be on Trubisky as well, because they did make a big deal about how that transition from being in the shotgun to going under center. But in addition of James Daniels, who was a center, so you have that option, but they're going to supposedly they're going to keep Whitehair at center and move Daniels over to a guard position. But hopefully that's going to help kind of shore up this line a little bit. The line's had some injury issues in the past, and if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you know all about having a bad offensive line and what it does to your quarterback.
My favorite thing from Anthony Miller this offseason, this was a while ago, but I'm just going to read this for you a little bit. This was when Miller was speaking to Matthew Berry at the NFLPA rookie premiere, and Berry told Miller that he predicts 52 catches, 657 yards, and 4 touchdowns for Miller. Anthony Miller's response to that was 4? That's too low. That's like 2 games for me. I just think I'm going to score at least 8 touchdowns. And that, to me, as a Bears fan, that's what I want to hear. But the thing is, we're around Chicago, Mark.
Yeah.
We're a kind of people where, yeah, you can say the right things, But unless Anthony Miller goes out there and shows it,
You gotta
and
back
this
it up
team
totally.
puts up points on the board, then it's not going to mean anything. It's not going to mean anything to the fans in Chicago. It's not going to mean anything in the end because talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. So for me with the offense, that's the big thing. Can you put points up on the board? Because in the end, points win you games. Now, going back to what you said at the very beginning, the schedule's difficult. Because of that, I don't know if the points are going to be at a premium for the Bears. Might not be as bad as last year, but I don't know if they're at a premium. I don't see you guys winning against the Vikings, although I put that asterisk against the home game. I don't see you guys beating the Packers. The Lions are a question mark to me. I got you 1-1 against them, winning each game at home, but what are you going to do there? You play the Patriots. Basically, the rest of the NFC East you can't beat, but the Dolphin, to me, is a coin flip game. Then you have the NFC West, which is basically the opposite, where it's like, great, you can beat the Cardinals, but I don't see you beating the Niners on the road. I don't see you beating the Rams, even though that's in Chicago. I don't see you beating the Seahawks right now, although their defense is vastly different than what we're used to seeing. So the question to me is, are Bears fans going to be okay with a 5-11 year where the Bears put up a few more points than they did last year?
I think the issue is going to be in that is you're always going to have that Chicago Bears fan who's going to go out there and say, "Oh, nothing's any different," because that's the way it kind of is in Chicago, and every fan base has a little bit of that. But with a lot of, more often than not in recent memory, the Chicago Bears have seen bad days. More bad days than good days. So you get a lot of that. But I do think that with a new coach, with a young quarterback, with a lot of young pieces, you got to be okay with seeing some of that. As long as you're getting better. If I can sit there and say that, yeah, at the end of the season, I do truly believe Mitchell Trubisky is the franchise quarterback for the Chicago Bears in the future. He'll be here for the next 10, 12, 15 years, whatever. Then for me, I am very happy with that. Now, I want to also see the other side of that of, yep, Matt Nagy looks like he knows what he's doing, and I'm very confident in that. But a lot of people were confident after year one of Mark Trestman, and that didn't work out too well. It doesn't necessarily all rely on this 1 year, and there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. I mean, a nice thing that we really want to see as well is continued production out of Jordan Howard.
I was just going to ask about him.
Jordan Howard needs to be a good part of this offense because everyone was scared in the offseason that, he doesn't really fit Matt Nagy's system. They might try and get rid of him. Matt Nagy needs to go out there and game plan very effectively to make sure that Jordan Howard is an effective part of the Bears offense. Because it's Chicago. It's a running team.
How do you think they're gonna use though Cohen and because Tariq Cohen's not just gonna be poof gone? He's not there. They're going to use him because to me, out of the two running backs, you look at Tariq Cohen, you're like, wow, he can do to me, he can do what Tyreek Hill does out of the running back position for the Bears.
Yeah,
for Matt Nagy.
I think the fear, of course, with Cohen's always going to be that Tariq Cohen's a small guy. He can get hurt easily. Now, that's not necessarily his fault or anything like that. And, hopefully the team is aware to not just sit there and what some Bears fans wanted is, yeah, go ahead and trade Jordan Howard. We have Tariq Cohen. That's not how it works. Those are completely different guys. You got to be careful. What I would love to see is, get him more involved in the run game. Have both running backs out there at the same time. And Mitchell Trubisky is mobile enough that where he can make stuff like that works to where all of a sudden the defense is scared of, there are three guys on this field right now. Any three of them can beat us on the ground. Mitch Trubisky is not a mobile quarterback necessarily, but he's got some of that in him. He's
got
athletic.
serviceable legs.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to make them scared. And the whole run-pass option thing, which Chicago is going to be, talking about nonstop, that's going to be very important. I mean, for the Chicago Bears' success, this is what I view. They really need to get Mitchell Trubisky to, be... I don't want to say... I'm not going to say that he should be a 4,000-yard passer this year. But if he can get to, 3,700, 3,800, you're going to be happy with that yardage-wise. That's just showing you that this offense is moving. I don't really care necessarily if he's throwing tons and tons of touchdowns because I want some of those touchdowns to go to Jordan Howard. I want some of those touchdowns to go to Tariq Cohen. I want that run game to be as effective. Jordan Howard's going to need to be a 1,000-yard rusher. Tariq Cohen, if this guy can get 800, 900 yards on the ground running the ball and then get another, 600 yards actually receiving the ball as well, that's just going to show you that you have almost everything moving the way it's supposed to. That's before you mention Burton. That's before you mention Miller. I don't care about White. I've given up on White, but that's before you mention Robinson. That's before any of this happens. And if you can still have a top 10 defense, there's no reason why the Bears won't steal a win from, let's say, the Packers. Let's say they, might steal, against a Vikings at home. There's no reason why they can't upset some of these teams. The unfortunate thing is you look at that schedule once again, and it's like, all right, they're going to San Francisco. You're going to New York. You're going, you get to play the Patriots at home. That's not one of the matchups you want to play at home.
You're still playing Tom Brady.
The upset you look at is maybe the Rams at home because you're hoping that the Rams maybe aren't all that they looked to be last year. Maybe they slow down a little bit.
They got, on paper though, they got better.
Oh, they
got better on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, they added pieces this year. Like, they're a team I might be a little bit more scared of this year than I was last year. Like, for me, how I'm looking at it is right now I've got 5 wins. At Arizona, home against Tampa Bay, home against New York, home or on the road against Buffalo, home against the Lions. Those are my 5 wins.
Yeah.
Now, I might be able to see 7. So 5 to 7 is my range. The 7 comes the Dolphins game. The Dolphins, I don't really know what we're going to get. That could be a toss-up. Bears coming off of a bye that week, even though it's in Miami. And then also, like I said, that Viking game in Chicago. Bears usually play the Vikings tough at home in Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a loss for the Vikings.
And I'm going to suggest a lot of Bears fans go this route as well, but they're not going to. But is the record is great. You want wins. The wins are what really matters. But
don't get hung up on it.
Don't get so stuck on that. Just let the team develop. What I care a lot about more is going to be...
Enjoy the ride, basically.
Kind of. I care a lot about yardage this year because I want to see that this offense is going to be productive. And part of that is you can't fail in the red zone. Because that's something the Chicago Bears have done for years now, is absolutely stall every time they get into the red zone. You've got a 1,000-yard rusher. The Chicago Bears need a 1,000-yard receiver. They haven't had one in too long now. We got rid of Brandon Marshall. We got rid of Alshon Jeffrey. Those are 1,000-yard rushers. They're gone now. 1,000-yard receivers. They're gone now. They really need a 1,000-yard receiver, and I think they should have at least one. There's no reason why Robinson can't do it. If Miller can be all that he's cracked up to be as well, maybe he can be the guy who does it. They need something. And Mitchell Trubisky is really going to need that as well because, yes, he's going to lean on Howard, and Tariq Cohen's going to be a nice change of pace, but he needs a guy that, as a sophomore, he can rely on to kind of bail him out sometimes because he's going to need that, but also just be a very reliable target. They've got tall receivers. Let's go back to the Jay Cutler days of, I got 3 guys. I can throw it up in the air, and one of them's coming down with it.
Yeah, part of me feels like, and maybe this isn't 100% correct, but I feel like some Bear fans out there might get hung up on I know it's not exactly Matt Nagy, but like when Andy Reid came over to KC, where it's like, you know what? He's going to come over. We're going to shoot right up to the top.
Yeah.
The main difference, though, that you have to think of is it's not the same situation. I know that the Chiefs went from a 2-win team, then went, boom, 11-5, Andy Reid's first season. I know Matt Nagy wasn't there till 2016, 2017. Bears are in a completely different situation. Vikings have a star player at almost every position on that entire team.
Yep.
You have the Packers who have arguably the second best quarterback in football right now. Like, many people put him and Tom Brady at the top. We've had discussions of who's the GOAT, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL right now. To me, it's a way tougher division. The Bears, to me, 5-11 is what I see. Main thing I want to see is, like you said, not putting points up on the board. What's a way you don't do that? You don't stall on offense.
Yeah.
You keep those offensive possessions moving. You rack up yards on offense, because if you're racking up yards, you're getting down the field. You're doing what? Putting points up on the board. At the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, what do you want to get better at? It has to lead to points on the board.
And that's something that for 3-4 years now, the Bears have not been able to do it. They just have not been able to score points. And that's what Matt Nagy has been brought here to do, to shoot the offense in the arm and get them revitalized and start to move it. I mean, this is a completely different Bears team.
Because I look at it and I go, the Falcon game last year, the Viking game last year, I'll even throw the Saint game last year, the Lions, the 49ers, the Lions again. There was 6 games that were close games for the Bears. As a fan, I'd rather sit there and go, hey, look, we were in so many close games last year, and our offense is good. Rather than, hey, we were in so many games last year, yeah, but we probably would have won those games if our offense was better.
And that's what it was. You had a bad offense, and the defense kept you close, but the offense was never going to be able to get you above. Where this year, at least if you get there, you have that chance. And you mentioned 6 close games in that case, and you can start to flip maybe 2 or 3 of those ones when you have a better offense and put yourself in place. Because, like I said, this is a different Bears team now. The rebuild is not 100% done, but we're like a year away from the Bears being at a spot where they can actually start really, truly competing.
The huge difference, though, and the main difference, and this is what I'll say before I kick it to you guys for the comments, is basically last year it was the AFC North and the NFC South. Take those away, and you're mixing them with the AFC East and the NFC West. Yep. Wrong division.
Yeah, I mean, 4 of the Chicago Bears wins came from the AFC North.
Exactly. And you don't get to play them this year.
4 of 5.
We go a little bit over. You're looking at our logo right now, but this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What do you think from the Bears this year? Will the offense be better? We didn't really focus too much on the defense, but my whole view is that the defense will be fine this year. It's the same defense that you can expect from the Bears last year. Let us know what you guys think for the Bears down below in that comment section. And Mark, let's move on into that next team. We're going from your Bears, and it's weird that we're talking about, usually we don't talk about our bitter rival, more your bitter rival than my bitter rival, but we hate them just the same. That's the Green Bay Packers. And I say it's weird we're talking about the Packers so soon because the Packers are never this bad. The Packers are never third in the division. They're usually first in the division, and we're usually talking about them last. But the Packers last year lose Aaron Rodgers, and that was pretty much their season. Like you were telling me before we were recording, it's weird for a preview like this one because you tell the fan base, just forget last year ever happened, and it's a new year.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers was there for 16 games, completely different season. And sure, there were things wrong with the Green Bay Packers last year because Aaron Rodgers masks some of the issues that the team has. That's what happens every single season.
I mean, they were, 4-1 before he got injured?
Yeah.
4-1, looking good, gets injured against the Vikings in Minnesota, and then it's 3 wins all the way out.
Then it's Brett Hundley time. And, one of the things for the Packers is you might actually say, hey, this was actually a good thing that happened to us. Because, yes, last year's season is gone. It's a wash. It doesn't matter. But we pointed out some things that are wrong with the Green Bay Packers, and they can go out there and fix some of these issues. You want them to go and get more weapons, of course, for Aaron Rodgers, a guy like Jimmy Graham, who hopefully is going to perform closer to what he did in the Saints uniform than in the Seattle Seahawks uniform. But you did lose Jordy Nelson. that's not anything that you're, I think, excited about. But I hate to say that these are additions that I love when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, but I do love what they did getting Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson, 2 corners back to back, round 1, round 2, because they're going to play Kirk Cousins, they play Stafford, they got to play Trubisky in this new high-powered offense. They need corners.
I'm just going to go down their schedule really bit, and this is just the quarterbacks they will see this year. Trubisky, Cousins, Alex Smith. I'm going to throw Josh Allen because by week 4, I'm assuming he'll start. Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo. You'll see Jared Goff, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Russell Wilson. Josh Rosen should be starting by week 13. Matt Ryan, Sam Darnold, and then you'll see Stafford again.
Yep.
So, I mean,
you play some rookies, but
you play what? 3 rookies? But besides that, you're playing some of the top-tier quarterbacks in this league. Tom Brady, you're looking at Jared Goff, who's up and coming, Matt Ryan, who's a playoff caliber quarterback, Alex Smith, who usually is a quarterback you don't have to see because he was over in KC. Now he's in Washington, who they'll see week 3. So to me, that is something draft night I was very excited for the Packers, that they got those 2 because those are the quarterbacks that they just see in the division and throughout this entire schedule that they'll have. However, when we talked about the Bears and said, oh, this schedule's going to be tough, only expect 5 wins, because the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, I can say, oh, you have a tough schedule, you can still get 12 wins.
Yeah, I mean, when you got Aaron Rodgers, every single game is winnable. I mean, all you need to do is have it be close enough for a Hail Mary, and you'll probably win that game.
Lions fans, cover your ears.
He
usually beats the Lions with the Hail Mary.
It's just the way it works. And as someone who's a Bears fan,
this year
you hate it.
This year it'll be to Jimmy Graham in the end zone as he just hails that hurl.
Did you know
Hail
Jimmy
Mary.
Graham played basketball?
Yeah, he did.
That's we're gonna hear that a lot this year, of course, now being in the NFC North. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where the schedule doesn't matter how hard it is because of the Green Bay Packers. Sure, they could maybe win 9 games instead of where maybe they would win 11 because 2 of these games just went the other way or something. But I do think that the Green Bay Packers have this kind of, they had this on the decline, or they had this moment where they were on the decline, and they kind of had Aaron Rodgers get hurt. They realized that we can't do the Peyton Manning method of, well, we've got a really good quarterback. We don't need anything else. You want to go more the Tom Brady method of, we've got a really good quarterback, and have you seen the rest of our team? It's pretty damn good too. That's what you really need. And yeah, I mean, this draft with those 2 corners, I mean, they really hit the essentially they hit the defensive side of the ball hard, and then they also stashed away some wide receivers because Aaron Rodgers can make anybody good. And how often do you get a no-name on the Packers that suddenly becomes one of the best receivers in the NFL?
I will tell you this. You know who will be one of the, and if you're a fantasy football person, go ahead, late round, snatch this guy up, or week 1 after he doesn't get drafted, because I bet you not many people are going to draft him, go and get Equanimeous St. Brown, because I am telling you, he will be for the wide receiver position this year. He is going to be the Alvin Kamara of this year for wide receivers. That is what I'm thinking, because a tall wide receiver out there, Aaron Rodgers is going to find him, and is going to find him often, especially with this wide receiver group, when everyone's keying up on Adams and keying up on Cobb, and, ooh, we got to key up on Gmo over here. Equanimeous St. Brown is going to, I think, earn his way into some playing time early on.
He's going to have to, because he's buried in the depth chart right now.
I think he's going to earn some playing time, and when he gets on that playing field, Aaron Rodgers is just going to skyrocket his value, because he's just going to find him all day.
I mean, he's 6'5". That's pretty great.
And he's quick as hell, too.
Yeah.
He's got speed, and he's tall.
It's a solid option for him. The problem he's going to have is just finding his way through the depth chart, which, he should be able to do it. He should be able to make a name for himself. If he can't, then of course why bother drafting him in fantasy football anyways? But yeah, I mean, I agree with you in that case. He's a I think he's a don't draft him guy. You're not going to need to. No one else is going to draft him too. You just pick him up on the waiver wire once you decide which one of the guys you don't want that you drafted. For the Green Bay Packers, their hard thing this year is that they're not the team looking down on the rest of the NFC North anymore. They're the team that's looking up at the Vikings, who are all around,
or looking even with the Vikings.
I'm going to still say they're looking up because all around the Minnesota Vikings are a better team. I wouldn't say they've got a better quarterback. They've got a good quarterback, but he's not a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
But we've got like I said, we've got stars at every level of the defense, every level of the offense. Yeah,
the Minnesota Vikings are a very, very good team. The Green Bay Packers now, the hardest thing for them is assuming anything can happen in the schedule, of course, but assuming that things go kind of the way you're going to expect right now, the Minnesota Vikings will probably win the NFC North again. So that means the Packers are going to be competing with whoever doesn't win the NFC South. So it might be the Saints, it might be the Falcons, it might be the Panthers. Whoever doesn't win the NFC West, of course, that could be the 49ers. The Rams probably win that one. Could be the Seahawks. Then you have the East, which has your defending Super Bowl champion, but teams like the Cowboys, who should hopefully be bouncing back this year after kind of a year that had a few different distractions. There's a lot of teams that are going to be competing for this NFC North, or I'm sorry, this NFC Conference wild card, these two spots that are available. 9-7 this year, I don't know that cuts it.
No,
I don't know that gets you into the into the playoffs.
And the thing that's going to be, to me, the thing that's going to be for both the Vikings and the Packers, the saving grace of why I think both of them, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, the Packers are a playoff team. I think in the NFC North, it's going to come down to winner of the North is 14-2, 13-3. Second place is 12-4, 11-5. Where right now I've got it 13-3 is number one in the North. Number two is 12-4. And that is, to me, like my records for right now of my predictions for the year in the NFC, 13 wins, 12, 12, 11, 12, and then 11 are all of my playoff teams. Because this year in the NFC, just like we saw last year, it's going to be very competitive. The Rams got better. The Niners are going to be better. The Eagles are going to be just as good. Expect the Falcons to be just as good. Vikings and Packers will be good. That'll leave teams like the Seahawks, who, in my opinion, got worse. The Panthers, who might not be as good as they were last year. The Saints might just lose a couple games this year instead of winning them like they did last year, but they could even be a 10-win team. The Cowboys, the Giants, all these teams, hey, they're good teams, but these other teams were just better, and we didn't get to double digits. It's going to be in the NFC. If we want to make the playoffs, we got to get to at least 10 or 12 or 10 to 11 wins to at least safely get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big challenge. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's going to be a big challenge for whoever's getting into the wild card. And for the Green Bay Packers, essentially, there's a big part of it they, of course, need Aaron Rodgers to be healthy. But one thing that we always have to look at, too, is, Aaron Jones gets a 2-game suspension. That's not that big of a deal, but there's that kind of question of the running back position. Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, who's it going to be? Jamal Williams.
Ty Montgomery.
Yeah, but Ty Montgomery, he had that year. He kind of stood out, and you haven't had that much from him since. There wasn't really a leading rusher for the Green Bay Packers last year. But like we said, last year was a wash. The team was bad last year because Aaron Rodgers was hurt. Is it going to be Williams? Is it going to be Jones? Is it going to be Montgomery? Right now, I think that it's kind of a battle between Williams and Jones for that number one spot, and maybe it's just going to be a pure committee. It's going to be difficult, I think, for the Green Bay Packers if they can't get an established running back to really kind of take over. They need someone to be a solid, as close to 1,000-yard rusher as they can get. because the Green Bay Packers will always play their best when they have someone to complement this passing game, and it's not just 100% on Aaron Rodgers, because when you play those better defenses, when you play a Minnesota, you're going to have to go against these teams that can actually match up against you and will say, we know you don't have a run game, so we're going to lock everybody down. We're going to make you try and run on us because we don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a kryptonite for the Green Bay Packers if they can't get one of these guys to be that solid running back that the Green Bay Packers never seem to have. They really haven't had one since they won that Super Bowl when all of a sudden they had, it wasn't even that the whole season, it was really that the running game just took off in the playoffs. That's really what it was.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can answer this for me. I haven't remembered the Packers having a dominant run game since maybe the Ryan Grant days, maybe the Ahmad Green days way back.
Yeah.
They have not been a team that's been hey, we got this really good running back, we're going to let him work. It's mostly been hey, we got the really good quarterback with the wide receivers. Oh, and our running back does some things. And he helps us out now and then.
Yeah, the running game really, for the Green Bay Packers, has not been that big of an issue, or not that big of a part to it, to where it always does seem like that afterthought. And I totally get it, because you don't need to, because you have Aaron Rodgers. But it hurts when you don't have it. And, Eddie Lacy looked like he was going to be the next big thing, and that just didn't pan out. It's just one of those...
Couldn't stay in shape.
Well, he had a little bit of trouble. For the Packers, I think they kind of have to take it very seriously. They have to see, some of these teams that do get that balance. I mean, a run game was a huge part of the Philadelphia Eagles being a Super Bowl champion. The run game was a huge part to the success of the New England Patriots, and always is. They always do have solid running backs. Not the, completely show off the entire league running backs, but they always have a good running back. They don't have to go that far back into their own history to see what a good running back can do. They just can't really seem to get it right and really go and get that true running back to help them out. Instead, we see them go get a guy like Jimmy Graham to just double down on the passing game, saying, no, we think this is good enough. That's the only thing I think that can hurt the Green Bay Packers. Not that it's going to eliminate them from the playoffs, because I still think the Green Bay Packers are easily a playoff team. It's just when you get to that final stretch, you always know the Packers are going to be in competition for getting to the Super Bowl. It's just they have to get there.
For some reason this year, I feel like the Packers are going to be that team that's 12-4, but you're fifth in the NFC. Where it's man, we got a better record than the 49ers who won the NFC West. We have a similar record to the Falcons and the Eagles who won their division. But damn, them Vikings had one more win than us. So that's why we get to sit here with the 5th seed. And they'll go to a San Fran and be wow, we got the better record, but we are the road team for this playoff game. When I look at the Packers schedule, to me, I feel like the first most important game on their schedule, week number 2 at Lambeau against the Vikings, that will be the first tone setter for this season. Because if they win that game, right now I got them with a win in that game. If they win that game, I could see them starting the year off, boom, 5-0. 5-0 to start, you're 3-0 in the division. Then after that, what are you going to do? You got the Niners who are going to be tougher. Yeah, but that one's at home. Then you got the Rams off of a bye week, but the Rams aren't traveling that far. They played just in the Bay Area the week before, so they're not traveling too far, coming back home to LA. Then the big thing, week 8 to week 9, you're basically going from LA all the way to New England in the matter of a week. I know they're going to come home during the week, but just that travel from LA to Green Bay, then out cross country to Foxborough, and then, you just get to play the GOAT in Tom Brady. What are they going to do? That 3-game stretch is going to be important. And then also, to me, what do you do against the Seahawks? What do you do against the Falcons? What do you do against the Vikings in Minnesota? The little just pick a game here or there, because after week 10, I think their season is fairly easy. Cardinals are a win. Jets are a win. Bears will probably be a win. Lions will probably be a win. And they'll pick up 4 wins just by falling asleep at night.
Pretty much. I mean, they, like I said, when you got Aaron Rodgers, you feel really good about it. I mean, I don't think their schedule is that easy at the end because, I mean, like you said, you got the Seahawks, you got the Vikings. This is when you're kicking into that supposedly easy part. Sure, the Cardinals are easier. The Jets will be easier week 16. Week 16. But you're going to still play the Falcons. You're going to go at Chicago.
And going into Seattle is a shortened week because they're going from playing on Sunday, week 10 to Thursday night, week 11.
Yeah, and, week 17 against the Lions, which, sure, it's a home game, but I don't want to count the Lions out completely. The Lions, if they're not at least playing for a wild card spot, they're potentially playing spoiler right there.
I'll say this, and this will just be to maybe give Lions fans a bit of hope. The reason why I gave the Packers both wins in their games is because the Packers, to me, like in my mind, I would love to be like, yeah, they'll split. But in my mind, the Packers just always find a way. They always find the silver spoon or the lucky sombrero or the lucky rabbit's foot to pull the game out in the end and pull the rug from out under the Lions to win the games against each other.
Never heard lucky sombrero, but hey.
Well, it's a baseball term, but it's not a good baseball term.
Yeah.
I just pulled it out. But the lucky rabbit's foot is what I was going with, where it's like they always win that game. Yeah. The Lions, sometimes it's like, man, the Lions got, it's like that Looney Tunes cartoon where like, man, he's really got Bugs Bunny now. And Bugs Bunny's got it. Or like, oh, is this the time where the Coyotes really going to catch the Roadrunner? Nope, the Roadrunner won. And there he goes running off while the Coyote is just falling down that mountainside.
Exactly.
That is usually the Packers and the Lions. Any final things about the Packers before we move on into said Lions?
I just think it's going to be interesting to see if this defense of the Packers
actually stands up.
Yeah, if the defense gets good, that's going to be a scary thing to see in Green Bay.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in the comment section. How far will the Packers go? Will they win the NFC North? What to expect from them with Aaron Rodgers coming back this year? Let us know what you think down below in the comment section. And let's move on, Mark, into those said Detroit Lions. And the first question I just want to throw at you about the Lions is basically they're the only, and not the only one. We talked about the Bears with this too, but much like the Bears, new head coach coming in for the Lions, Matt Patricia coming on in. What, if you were a Lions fan, put yourself in their shoes, what would you be expecting from this team year one, Matt Patricia at the helm?
This one's a tough one because the Detroit Lions last year, I mean, they make a move to get a defensive coordinator and a guy who's supposed to be a very good defensive coordinator. You look at this team last year and really great passing game, terrible running game. Very strong offense, below average defense. So you look at this team and it's this polar opposite kind of team and you're like, all right, the strength is offense. They went with an offensive guy and it didn't work. That's not really a recipe for success when it comes to Detroit. They really want to get that defense going, and they have to because they're going to play Aaron Rodgers twice a year. They're going to maybe play Mitch Trubisky if he turns out to be good. They're going to play Kirk Cousins. They got to go against these tough defenses. I mean, this is the NFC North. Run games, defense. The Detroit Lions haven't done either one that well last year, so they got to go that way. What you really want to see is Matt Patricia come in here and reestablish this Detroit Lions defense. This defense that is going to, bang you up. It's going to bruise you. They're going to not let you score. You're going to be scared to go against the Detroit Lions because, not because you're going to get stomped necessarily, but because that it's going to be a rough game and they're not going to give an inch. That's what you really want. The thing with Matt Patricia is, this was a guy who really prided himself on turnovers, which is exactly what the Lions need. Because, like I said, Aaron Rodgers, Mitch Trubisky, Kirk Cousins, these are guys who are going to throw the ball. You want to get those turnovers. You want to force those quarterbacks off the field, because if you give them the opportunity, and we're making a little bit of an assumption here with Mitch Trubisky that he will go in the correct direction. But if you give these guys time, they are going to take advantage of your defense, especially when this defense last year wasn't that great. What I really need to see out of the Detroit Lions is LeGarrette Blount actually being a solid contributor here with Kerryon Johnson as well. How those two mesh together, this running back core that's here, this basically a running back by committee, like that needs to be better.
Out of which ones two are you going to get? You mentioned Blount and Johnson, but Amir Abdullah is still there. Theo Riddick is still there. Zach Zenner, Dwayne Washington. Which one of these 6 guys is either going to get going? Because the Lions, for a run game, they've never been a team that this is our runner. I know Amir Abdullah, they've drafted him to be the guy, but it's always been a kind of back by committee where one kind of takes a little bit of the main haul. Yeah. But it's never anything special from the running back position.
Exactly. I mean, they need someone to really step up. I mean, I think Amir Abdullah might have been the leading rusher last year with like 500 yards, 550. And that's not good enough for your team. I mean, this was one of the worst running games in the NFL.
552.
That's not good enough. You have to be better than this. And the thing is, when your defense is going to be subpar and when your running game can't keep drives going, you're just asking for those issues to get worse. Unless you're going to dink and dunk your way on the field to give your defense some breathing, some time to breathe on the field, that's going to be bad. What I'm very interested with the Detroit Lions, of course, is going to be, do they try and move away? I mean, because they've been so embedded in Matthew Stafford being the identity of this team.
I was just going to ask that.
Do they move away from that?
Here's the question I was going to ask is, he's 30 years old. They just bring in Matt Patricia, which I'm not, like, the big difference between Patricia and the Lions and Nagy and the Bears are the quarterbacks. Because Mitch Trubisky, young quarterback, entering his second year, Matt Stafford, 30-year-old quarterback.
He's established. He knows what he's doing.
The question I was going to ask you is, are we going to fast forward about 4 or 5 years down the line, and are we going to look at Matt Stafford and go, wow, he's the Phillip Rivers of the NFC? Or he's a really good quarterback. He's got the stats. He's a really solid guy to be your starter. But the team just could never do anything with him. Like,
I mean,
the Chargers,
I definitely think we could.
They're not doing anything with Phillip Rivers. They're pretty much wasting his talent out there. I think the Lions are kind of like, is this another soft reset of the Lions? And you're basically, by resetting this team, resetting Matthew Stafford, and by doing so, wasting years off of his career because he's only getting older, he ain't getting any younger.
That's the interesting kind of fork in the road that the Lions are at. They are not going full rebuild right now. They are bringing a guy in who hopefully can just tweak a few things and maybe in a year or two get them where they're playing and they're contenders.
But are they doing it at the wrong time?
Well, that's the thing is, because we're going to see if it works or not.
Because the other two teams in their division, the Vikings are on a different timeline. The only one that timeline might work up for them is if, hey, let's get this going and let's hope that Aaron Rodgers falls off that cliff because he's getting up to the Tom Brady type cliff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, right now you're looking at this. The Minnesota Vikings are in that kind of 2-3 year prime period where contracts are working out. They've got all these studs. They don't have to pay them yet. The Bears are this. We are about 1 year off from when we can start competing. You're hoping the Packers are that, and we're done. The Detroit Lions need to do that. But here's the thing for the Detroit Lions is, they've got, no one's going to doubt that this passing game is going to be great because Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. He can always bail you out.
Even with a separated shoulder.
Yeah, he will bail you out of games if your team is close enough, for sure. But the problem is if this defense continues to be this below average defense, if this run game continues to be one of the worst run games in the NFL, then this is going to be a team that says, yeah, we didn't go full rebuild when we first got Matt Patricia, and maybe that was a mistake. Maybe we should have gone full rebuild. Because then, in 2-3 years, if they get what John Fox happened with the Chicago Bears of John Fox is just going to tweak a few things and then we'll be good to go. Oh, wait, the team was not built for that. They needed a full rebuild. Then they just wasted the end of Matthew Stafford's career in that case. Potentially. I mean, he's only 30. He could play for 6, 7, 8 more years potentially. I mean, Tom Brady is making us all question our ideas of when quarterbacks can end. We all talk about Tom Brady, but Big Ben is old. Drew Brees is old. Aaron Rodgers is getting there as well. Phillip Rivers is old. There's a lot of old quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and there's been no better time to be a quarterback in the NFL than right now because they're so protected.
And to me, the big thing that kind of set this season, I'm going to say almost set this season up for failure in my mind right away from the Lions was their draft, their first-round pick.
Ragnow?
When they took Ragnow, I hated that pick. That was one of the only picks of the first round that I hated because that, to me, was a Lions team. Like, to me, I thought there were so many better needs that could help this Lions team now. To me, that's a pick where it's like, we're going to help this line. We're going to get better for the future. And the thing that I wonder is if this might be the beginning of the kind of Bill Belichickian thought process for Patricia coming in, where it's basically all right, I'm going to try to come in and do this. All right, it's not working this year. Let me stop, pivot, shift this way, and we're maybe next draft, we see them take a quarterback. Now, I'm not saying like first round, but we see Patricia do the Belichickian thing of, hey, let's look at this quarterback because I want to get
my guy.
More of, well, not just my guy, but we might have to stop, pivot, and go more into a rebuild because of where we're at and how old Stafford will be getting.
If they go into a rebuild, an actual full rebuild instead of just this tweak some things, Matt Patricia's not going to be there for the end of it. He's going to get fired.
Because by the end of Stafford's contract, he will be 35. So to me, we'll just put it this way: Patricia's got to do something within this contract. I don't think the Lions get anything done this year. I don't think the Lions get anything done as of right now within Matt Stafford's contract, which would put him to 35.
The thing is, the Lions on a neutral playing field right now, neutral playing ground, I do think the Lions can be a playoff team
this year.
Yes, this year I do, because Matthew Stafford can get it done if they get a guy who is known for having good defenses that create turnovers. You're just getting Matthew Stafford more time on the field. Yeah. They draft Kerryon Johnson and a center, which I don't completely agree with when they drafted him, but sure, he's fine. But they tried to address the running game. They still have a great quarterback, good wide receivers. This defense should hopefully be better. This team can play and they can get in there. The problem is, we just talked about it with the Green Bay Packers. We're expecting the Minnesota Vikings to win this division.
Yep.
That means you're competing for the wild card spot. There's only two against the Packers, against the Cowboys, against the maybe two teams that don't get the NFC South, the 49ers, because I'm expecting the Rams to win the West. You're competing with like 4 or 5 other teams for a wild card spot. And your schedule, we've talked about it all podcast, is difficult. It's it's that simple.
Their schedule, to me, I look at it and I go, this is going to be a Lions team that, to me, goes 1-9 in the first 10, then wins 4 out of their last 7 games to get back up to 5-11. Because, like, I look at it and I go, the Jets, and I'll say maybe the Dolphins, are wins in your first 10 weeks. Going to San Fran, I'll take Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll take the better quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo.
You got to pump the brakes on calling Jimmy Garoppolo a better quarterback than Matthew
Right
Stafford.
now, I think that
Matthew Stafford throws for 4,500 every season.
But that one being on the road, if that one was in
it doesn't
Detroit,
matter.
I would be picking
Matthew Stafford
Lions,
is a
maybe.
better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
The San Francisco 49ers
I hate to say it, Lions fans, but I'm on your side
going to be a much better team this year than the Lions, and I would say Jimmy Garoppolo right now is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford and will win more games than Matthew Stafford this year.
Could he win more games? Sure, but I think you are buying way too much on Jimmy Garoppolo hype to call him a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford.
No way Tom Brady is losing to the Lions in Detroit. I've got the Cowboys also beating the Lions in Dallas. I got Packers beating them twice. Vikings beating them twice. The Bears beating them in Chicago, having the split when the Lions play them back in Detroit. The Seahawks, that'll be an interesting one. Seahawks coming off of a bye. Yeah, it's in Detroit. Yeah, that Seahawks defense is lesser than what it's been. But what do the Seahawks have that the Lions don't? Russell Wilson, who's a solid quarterback, and they also have a better run game than the Lions have. The Dolphins, to me, are the only question mark within those first 9 that right now I have as a loss because I don't really know how to gauge the Dolphins coming into this one.
They're another one of those teams where last year was a wash.
Then you look at the rest of the season. After that, Bills will be a win, Cardinals will be a win, Bears will be a win, the Panthers will be a win, and then you're losing against playoff teams. Rams coming off of a bye, Vikings, and Packers.
It's an interesting thing with the Detroit Lions because if things go really bad, sure, they could be a 6-win team. If things go really well, they can be a 10-win team. You know, they're just kind of at the mercy because they're in this middle ground, you know, where a lot of these games are going to be those toss-up type of games. I fully expect them against the Panthers to be quite a toss-up. I think they can beat the Packers in one of these games, probably a home game, obviously. You know, they can beat the Seahawks because the Seahawks are falling off the cliff. I'm not buying the 49ers thing as much as you are. It is a road game, so I do lean a little bit towards the 49ers. The Cowboys, we don't know if the Cowboys are going to be that good of a team this year because we saw them not perform as well last year. We got to see how that goes.
I mean,
there's a lot of things up in the air for the Lions.
And I look at their wins last year. The only solid win in my mind, the only solid team that they beat last year were the Vikings in Minnesota. Other than that, Arizona wasn't a very good football team. The Giants weren't a very good football team. Both times they beat the Packers last year did not have Aaron Rodgers, in my mind, didn't count. You beat the Browns, guess what? Everyone beat the Browns last year. You beat the Bears twice, but hey, we talked about that offense not scoring many points, and that first game that they won was only by 3 points, and then they beat the Buccaneers, who were also a team that, to me, is not very good of a football team.
Definitely, but the thing to, and I hate that as a Chicago Bears fan, I have to defend the Lions right now. The thing is, though, I mean, they drafted a running back because they knew they didn't have one, and they went into free agency and they got one as well. Hopefully that's going to make them a better team. That offense will be on the field more often. They got a defensive coordinator as their head coach. He knows how to make these teams turn the ball over. It's a bend, don't break offense. It's what you kind of want going against a lot of high-powered offenses that they're going to face this year. They have the potential to go back and be another 9-7 win team. The problem is, we said it earlier in the podcast, I don't think 9-7 is good enough to get you into the NFC playoffs this year.
Not just that, I don't think 9-7 is as attainable as it was last year because of what we've said for each of the teams in the NFC this year.
Sure.
The schedule's harder.
I'm just saying that, like I said, they addressed the running back situation, which was their biggest issue last year. They, we assume, addressed the defense as well. This team should be better. It should be a better team. It looks better on paper.
On paper.
They still have Matthew Stafford, who's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You know, they have a lot of things going well. They were a 9-7 team last year. They barely missed out on the playoffs. This team is, I don't want to, as much as I would love to hate on the Lions as a Chicago Bears fan, I don't want to do that because they don't deserve it.
The Lions and the Bears will have so many similarities this year when it comes to games they win and lose. And the similarities will be they will only win one game against the NFC West, and that'll be the Cardinals. They will go 2-2 against the AFC East, only beating the Jets and the Bills. They will only win one divisional game, and it will be against each other. And then that fifth game will be somebody outside that they beat. The Panther, to me, it could be the Panthers, could be maybe a team like the Seahawks, but it's going to be like, hey, they got this one other game. They're not going to be, in my mind, a much better team or a similar team that they were last year, because last year you beat most of your opponents that you beat were not very good last year, and this year we're making your schedule harder.
Oh, for sure.
Which is not good for a team replacing their head coach, bringing in a guy who, one of the questions that we've always asked when we brought Matt Patricia's name up in hirings is, how's he going to do? He's never been a head coach before.
Well, it's not only that, too, but the Patriots teams were not really known for having great defenses. They would have above-average defenses, but they were not ever great, amazing ones. The interesting thing for me when I look at the Detroit Lions is, first of all, I got to put this out there for, And
how many guys from the Belichickian tree, like under Belichick, actually leave to become head coaches and actually do very well doing
It's only
somewhere.
a few of them.
I mean, Bill O'Brien's not doing that hot right now.
I mean, this year might be good. If injury didn't happen to Deshaun Watson, that would have been a good season.
Josh McDaniels got kicked out of Denver, and now he's back in New England doing the whole OC thing.
He had his opportunity to be a head coach and turned it down.
In Indy, and then didn't want
He
it.
accepted it and then turned it down. But first of all, for, of course, Sean Anderson, he's going to love this one. He's going to put a bookmark on this and say, if the Detroit Lions are good, I'm going to post this on our Flashback Friday of all Ricky's comments. But no, really, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because the Detroit Lions do not do well. If they are a 4-5 win team, it'd be very interesting to see the reaction to Matt Patricia, especially if the defense is bad.
Yeah.
Then do they just sit there and admit that, yeah, we do need to full rebuild? And maybe, do they shut him? I don't think so. But after a second year, if it doesn't start going well again, they're going to have to embrace the fact that then it's not, the team is full rebuild. And I don't think Matt Patricia survives that. I don't think that that's necessarily where they're going to be, though.
Any final thoughts on this team before we wrap things up?
The only thing I think of is that those last two games, Vikings, Packers, those are going to be so incredibly important for the Lions. I mean, that's very realistically, one, playing spoiler for these teams, especially if the Vikings and Packers are neck and neck for the division, but also potentially for their hopes of getting into the wild card.
I just think with this team, you didn't change enough for me to think of you as that much better of a team, and your schedule got harder. So to me, I'm going to have you guys with less wins than you had last year. I see this team as a 5-11 team this year, tied with the Bears at the bottom of the NFC North. This is where you guys come in, though. Let us know what you think about the Lions down below. How wrong am I for bashing on the Lions in this segment? How right is Mark for defending the Lions? Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section. And Mark, let's close out the podcast talking about the
worst
best
team
from the NFC North last year, my Minnesota Vikings. The reason why I wore the Steve shirt this week was because I had to have a little bit of purple in my shirt.
Could have just worn a Viking shirt.
Well, I didn't have one. And and here's the thing, Mark. I gained a few pounds since last football season. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
My Randy Moss jersey doesn't fit quite as loosely as it did.
It's inspiration,
That's what they'll say out there.
Yeah.
But it's not inspiration. So I had to wear a little bit of purple in my shirt today. Let the Vikings and a little bit of yellow with the Steve text.
Can I throw this out there too? As it was my wife and I's anniversary yesterday.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you. We bought it's a small cake, but it was still a cake. We bought a triple chocolate cake, and we also went to Cold Stone yesterday. So like. It was one of those times where...
Dave and I went to Cold Stone twice during VidCon week.
I love Cold Stone. I would have gone every single day. But it's just one of those problems where you're like, I'm old. I really can't do this anymore. But, I'm going to do it anyways. Bad decisions were made.
Yeah, I just got the vanilla with Reese's in that shake. And then just drank that thing the whole way back to our hotel.
All right. If you're not going to peanut butter cup perfection... I don't know what you're doing.
Well, I wanted a shake. I wanted to put some Reese's in that shake to get that peanut butter in there, and then drink that Reese vanilla shake all the way home.
It's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to drink a shake that has chunks of Reese's in it.
Well, I mean, they smash it up and liquefy
I'm sure they
it.
do, but it's still...
it just tastes Reese's is what it does. But we're talking about the Vikings, and here's the first question I got for you.
I tried to distract long enough from the Vikings talk.
This is basically... Colin Cowherd basically brought this up, and I want to ask you, he thinks that the Vikings are, like... If he was like, all right, the Vikings are going to be a little bit worse, they won't be 13-3. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And then he's like, oh, they're going to be 8-8. I went, what?
He didn't say they were going to be 8-8.
What is this?
He said they were going to be closer to 500.
He said I could see them to being closer to 8-8, which in my mind was him saying, oh, they're going to be 8-8, 9-7.
See, here's the way I read it as someone who doesn't care about the Vikings.
Well, I've got that purple.
Besides the fact that I would like them to lose all 16 games. I'm a Bears fan, just for the Vikings people out there. They were a 13-3 team last year. The bottom is this 8-8 thing. He's saying that they're going to be closer to that, meaning that if they lose 3 more games, they're now a 10-6 team. That's 2 games away from 8-8, as opposed to 3 games away from 13-3. I have the Vikings as a 10-6 team as it stands right now. That is closer to 500 than it is to where they were last year. And he's Colin Cowherd. You know how he is. He's a hot take machine. He puts these things out there because he wants that. He wants that reaction. So, it's the way he's saying it on purpose, but what he's really saying isn't that bad.
Here's what I got.
Although he did say that that they would lose the division. I don't agree with that.
My range, if they lose the division, it's because they lost to the Niners, to the Packers once, to the Rams, to the Eagles, to the Saints, to the Patriots. If they lose 6 games, they are not winning the division.
I currently disagree with you, but...
Because in my mind, this team, at the very worst, like if we have a Browns 0-16 year, we are 10-6. In my mind. 10-6 is like, oh my God, this was a bad year. We lost to all of the teams that I didn't want to lose to and now are scared going into the playoffs. Because... to me, with this team, the question of if they're going to make the playoffs is not a question to me. This team is making the playoffs. The question of will they win the division is a good question because to me, it's going to be either the Vikings or the Packers that win this division. I think both of these teams split their games between each other. I give the Packers the home game. I give the Vikings their home game. So really, it's how are you going to do with other teams? And for me, with the Vikings, the crucial games are the games we've been talking about with every one of these teams. I just listed them. What are you going to do week 1 at home against the 49ers? What are you going to do on the road week 4 against the Rams? What are you going to do that next week, Sunday Night Football, against the Eagles? What are you going to do against the Patriots? What are you going to do against the Saints? What are you going to do against the Seahawks? Those are the games that I'm looking at. Every other game besides the ones that I listed are probably wins. I have no questions about any of the other games. Jets, Bills, Dolphins. It's only those 6 or 7 that I listed are the tough games, and those are the ones, and maybe not even the Patriot one, because that one I'm even chalking up as a loss right away because it's in Foxborough, it's against Tom Brady. I don't think we win that game in the regular season. My whole question is, can we win those tough games against the teams that will be fighting for playoff position in the NFC and will most likely be in the playoff, most of them Eagles, Rams, Niners, and Packers?
Yeah, it's certainly difficult, but I still think even 10-6 you can get into, you can win the division. You're probably going to win off a tiebreaker with the Packers, or the Packers could be a 9-7 team. You know, like we said, this division beats itself up. And this conference will beat itself up because you're going to play the West, the NFC West, so that you're going to have some tough competition in that case. Now, the thing with the Vikings is it's almost similar to when Sean and I talked about the Philadelphia Eagles of, well, this was a good team last year. They got better. So, you know, what else is out there? What else is out there is the tough schedule. That, of course, will have them lose some games. There's also, of course, the fact that it's change. You know, you have your offensive coordinator that goes to New York. You put a new offensive coordinator in. It's going to be a little different. Pat Shurmur style offense is much different than what you're going to get from Philadelphia, which is going to be a little bit more
the DiFilippo system.
Yeah, let's move a little faster. Let's be a little bit better. You supposedly are supposed to have a guy who's good at working with quarterbacks. The big question is, who really was responsible for that year 1 to year 2 jump up for Carson Wentz? Who really did that, and who turned Nick Foles from guy who was about to leave the NFL forever into Super Bowl MVP? You know, somebody was responsible for that. There are 3 guys that could have been responsible. The question is that guy now in Minnesota working with Kirk Cousins? You got good receivers. You get your running back, but you have some solid depth there as well. The defense is one of the best defenses in the league. You just got a new corner as well that you're happy about through the draft. There's a lot here for the Minnesota Vikings to be thrilled and excited about, that if they take a step back, if they're a 10-11 win team, it doesn't really matter. They're just wanting to get to the playoffs, because when they get to the playoffs, what really is going to be a big thing for them then is, even if you don't get a first-round bye, you know, you're still going to be playing teams, a team like the Saints who you beat last year. Sure, it's a miracle that you beat them, but this is a better team last year. You know, Kirk Cousins is going to do a better job against Drew Brees than Case Keenum will. If you're going against the Falcons, you can say the same thing, that your defense is going to be able to go up against this high-powered Falcons offense very well. And then, once again, Case Keenum can go head-to-head with Matt Ryan. I don't necessarily think that the Panthers are going to be as good as they were last year. If you go against the 49ers, the 49ers are not a complete team. Yes, I know people want to buy the hype on Jimmy Garoppolo, but that team, if they get into the playoffs, they're going to face some real competition, and it's going to hit them in the face very quickly. The Eagles, I would be scared of the Eagles if I'm the Vikings, because they're the Super Bowl champions.
And that's the whole thing of, like, for me, the Eagles are the team that I'm thinking of. Like, the Eagles, the Rams, the Packers are the teams that I'm thinking about that we could see in the NFC playoffs. And, of course, you want to win the division because you want to get a chance to get that first-round bye. But for me, that home field in that first game at the least is huge, because you look at last year, the game we played at home, Colin Cowherd will go and get a reaction when he makes fun after saying, like, wow, that was a great game. Look at how they won. Oh, the Saints, you were bad for tackling your own teammate. Doing a whole 180 now of basically like, oh, it was a miracle that you guys won that game. And
but I mean, it was.
I did not expect us to win that game. I will be the first one to say that. I was excited running down in surprise in my basement that we won that game. I'm not saying that I'm not going to sit there going, oh, I knew we were going to win it, because I didn't. I thought we lost that game right there and then. But you saw it last year. Played a lot better at home. We went on the road, and got our asses handed to us. So for me as a Viking fan, of course you want home field advantage. But another part of me, and maybe this is just me as a Vikings fan, I can't help but think, all right, what was one of the big things we did this offseason? We're going to go out. We're going to get our guy at quarterback. We went, we got him, we paid him. So shouldn't this year be Super Bowl or bust for the Vikings because of the contract we gave to Kirk Cousins?
The fully guaranteed contract. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan...
Like, this is Super Bowl or bust for us.
You kind of are in that. But the one saving grace you have is this core, it's going to be there next year.
Mm-hmm.
You can lose in the conference championship. You can lose in the wild card round, the divisional. It doesn't matter. They're going to be here next year. There might be one or two people who need to get paid, but people are going to be there next year. Now, you have this 2-3 year window for the Vikings, so I don't think you are necessarily completely this, but I get it. I 100% get where you're saying we invested this,
Mark,
we should be there.
I'm a Cubs fan. I can't go back to there's always next year.
No, I get it.
Go back
but you also have to be willing to understand that new quarterback, new system, new offensive coordinator. There's a lot of change right now, and we've been saying it all day. The schedule for the NFC North is difficult, and then you're going to go and turn around and have to face the Eagles, who also have this young core they don't have to pay yet. The Rams, which are getting closer to the tail end of the young core that they don't have to pay, and then the Green Bay Packers, who are your division rival, who of course are going to play you tough because Aaron Rodgers is there. You also have the Saints, who have a lot of young players in this core as well. The NFC is built pretty much all the same way. Everybody is doing this Eagles-Rams method of have this. I guess I should give credit to the Seattle Seahawks when they did it, of draft really well and then just spend money on the pieces that you don't have because you have a few years before it kind of screws you.
And the thing that I kind of want to, I don't want to throw it out there like to throw in your face, but when you say like, oh, well, if you lose this year, that's fine because guys are going to be there. Let me just name a few names that we're going to have to try to pay next year. Latavius Murray is one. That's one where I can say if he wants,
don't need him.
Doesn't matter, we've got Dalvin Cook. But then I look wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. That's one I would like to get back. That's one that I would not want to see walk away.
Sure, then but you've got a lot, though, on the... you got a lot of wide receivers. What you need is a guy like Laquan Treadwell to actually play.
Then there's Sheldon Richardson, who... The only reason I throw him out is he's 27. Brian Robinson, he's 35. So, I mean, there's no way that we're looking at. But then the big one to me, Anthony Barr. He's the one we still haven't locked down to an extension where...
I thought you had 2 years of Anthony Barr left.
No, Anthony Barr is done at the end of this year. He's got 12.3 this year, and then he is an unrestricted free agent.
Get paid.
Exactly. And to me, I look at really Diggs and Barr, the big ones, but Richardson and Latavius Murray are there also. And then in the cornerbacks, like... You got Anthony Harris, Newman, Marcus Shrells. They're not really the big ones up there with Barr. Barr's the big one. Like, if we don't lock him down, he walks away next year. This team is vastly different.
But that's the kind of... Okay, here's a fun question. Diggs or Barr? You only get one. Who are you going to take?
Barr.
Yeah, you're going to get Barr,
all day,
right?
every day.
Diggs was about an 800-yard receiver. You can replace him. It's not easy, but you can replace him. You can get someone else. Like I said... You need a guy like Laquan Treadwell to really kind of get lifted with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been on teams that did not have wide receivers in the past. He can help out with that. You know, Kendall Wright was a good wide receiver who just hasn't necessarily truly reached his potential.
Drops
this is going to be the best
Yes,
that's true. This is going to be the best quarterback that he's had throwing him the ball. You don't want to lose Diggs, but you can survive it.
Part of me feels like this'll be this year, coming into this year for the Vikings, I feel like this is going to be the best chance we have. The best chance we have to win a Super Bowl. And if we don't do it this year, every other year after is just going to be harder and harder and harder to do because of all the animosity we're going to have to go through. We're like, if we don't do it this year, then you got the whole, are we getting Barr back? Then you got the question of like, you gave Kirk Cousins that much money. If you didn't win the Super Bowl last year, you're going to do it this year kind of a thing, to where I almost feel like this is good or bad for the Vikings. This is Super Bowl or bust for the Minnesota Vikings, only because of what we did. We could, let's be completely honest, this team could have been like, hey, you know what? We're going to pay Pat Shurmur to stay. We're not going to let him walk away. We're going to pay some money to Case Keenum to keep him here. Not going to pay as much for Keenum as we would for a Kirk Cousins, and we're just going to go again. But no. What we did was we went out, we wooed Kirk Cousins, we gave him the fully guaranteed contract to get him here no matter what. This was our LA LeBron James, except the only difference is we have a team here in Minnesota. The Lakers are still building theirs over time. If we don't win a Super Bowl this year, it could be one of the times we look back at Minnesota and just go, man, remember Minnesota in 2018, man? Yeah, it was probably the best chance they had to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, man, but God, could you imagine if they did? Man, I can imagine it, but they didn't, and then we move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you still, if you don't win it this year, I still think next year is fine. I think you'll be okay because you'll be able to pay Barr. You'll probably be able to pay Diggs as well. You know, you're probably going to be fine. If not, you can replace Diggs. But the thing is, you do have a point that once you get about 3 years, 4 years out, when a lot of these guys start needing to get paid, then it will look bad. Of course. Then it will start to look bad. But when you look at the alternative, and you brought it up yourself, you weren't going to keep Shurmur. Shurmur was going to go no matter what. But if you had paid Case Keenum the money, it wasn't going to be huge money. He wasn't going to get a fully guaranteed contract or anything like that. But if you paid him the money, if you just hoped that Teddy Bridgewater was going to be healthy enough to play, which he might have been, but you don't know, that would have been worse for you than going out there, taking the shot, and it just not working out.
No, we had to take the shot for Kirk Cousins. I get that. It's just I feel like because we made that move, Super Bowl or bust this year, and how I look at it for the Vikings is we've got a talented team. Like, there's no question about that. My question is just those few games that I said. 49ers week 1, that's going to be a tough game because the 49ers are going to be a better team. They were a different team with Jimmy Garoppolo compared to not Jimmy Garoppolo. Packers week 2 will be tough. Week 4 will be tough because it's at LA. Then at Eagles the next week, week 5. The Saints game, what that's going to be like, is that going to bring back revenge memories for the Saints because it's at Minnesota. They are returning to
they're going to feel like we should have won that game.
Exactly. We're coming back to the scene of the crime. The Patriots, like I said, we ain't winning that game. The Seattle one, Seattle's defense ain't what it used to be, but that is in Seattle, and Seattle is hard to beat at home with that 12th man behind them. I just feel like, we talked about the schedule being tough for most of these NFC teams, but the Vikings really, like, I say Super Bowl or bust, and then I look at this schedule and I go, man, the schedule, whoever put this schedule together did not do us any favors.
Seems like to me that you're just accepting that you guys have lost already.
No. I'm not saying that because I have this team 13-3, going to be the number 1 seed, and will be the favorite front runner to be in the Super Bowl this year. I just feel like if you look at everything, it's kind of like how we talk about like the Cleveland Browns, where I said, man, on paper, this team is really good. I just don't think they're going to win a lot of games. Similar here. I look at the attitude that might be the whole like Super Bowl or bust. I look at the schedule. Man, this deck might be stacked against us. But I think in the end, this team will beat, like right now, I got them 13-3. I could see them 11 to 13 wins 1 to 3, and that's basically, do we win the division and finish 12 to 13, or do we win the division and finish with 11 and we're 3 or 4? I'd put us at 3. And then in the playoffs, what are we going to do after we get there?
Yeah. What's interesting with the NFC in general, but for the detriment to Vikings fans, is, I mean, you got the Eagles, who are, I don't want to call them a super team because I don't want to bring back any bad memories for Eagles fans, but they're not far from it. You got the Rams, who are kind of going for the super team thing right now. You got the Saints, who I don't know if I would go that direction with them, but they're certainly a very good team. And then you got the Vikings. You got all these stacked teams right now. So the Vikings are taking their shot, but they're taking their shot at the same time that 2 other teams are doing the exact same thing, and one other team is saying, we only got Drew Brees for a little bit more. Let's do everything we can to get this Super Bowl.
And I'll be completely honest. In my head, right now, the only 3 games I have out of the 13-3. The 3 that I have the Vikings losing: Packers, Patriots, and Eagles. Patriots I'm really high on. I don't think there's many teams that are going to beat them this year. Packers, we will split with them. They will probably be the only team in the division to actually get a win against us. Eagles, we couldn't win against last year. Reason why Rams and Saints I've got wins: Saints were at home, which is good. We beat you guys at home. I think we can beat you guys again. Plus, regular season to playoff, is it going to have that same intensity that it had last year?
They're coming back.
It could, though, because of what happened last year. And then it's like the Rams. Yeah, I know we played you guys at home last year and beat you 24-7. But if our defense did that well against you, I think we can go to L.A. and get a win against you with Kirk Cousins with this defense. So that's why Rams and Saints, I have wins against those teams. And then the Seahawks, it's, we're playing you on the road, but it's me, the question of with the Seahawks, they're going to take a dip this year because of how lesser their defense is this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. You've put it out there before, it's possible that the Bears can upset you at home at week 11.
I put the asterisk by that
Rams
every year.
Is that home game, so that's going to be a tough one.
It's a Thursday nighter, too.
The Lions, if they're closer to what I think the Lions are going to be, there's a chance they can upset you in one of these games.
They beat us last year.
So it's going to be interesting for sure. But like I said, I still think even 10-6, Minnesota Vikings can win the division. They're not going to be the number 1 seed. They're the number 2 seed necessarily, but I think they can still win the division at 10-6.
What do you think happens, national media overall, if the Vikings lose week 1 against the Niners and then lose week 2 against the Packers? What do you think the general state of the team is if they're 0-2 heading into Bills week 3?
People are definitely going to think that the sky is falling. I mean, you're definitely going to get was Kirk Cousins signing a bust? Is he not the real deal? Is not what he's expected? You'll have lots of plays on the whole fully guaranteed type of headlines and stuff like that. But I think that most people will sit there and say, yeah, but they played 2 good teams. Most people are going to get that, but you're going to get some of those hysterics out there. The problem that you're going to have
survive the first 5 weeks.
Well, it's exactly that. It's
survive.
Sure, you can lose those first 2 games and then come back and beat the Bills, and people are like, "Yeah, the Vikings are back." But then they got to play the Rams and the Eagles on this, 2-week road stretch. That's not easy. Those are 2 high-powered offenses out there, one of which has a extremely good defense as well in the Rams. That's going to be a very difficult 5-game stretch for you. I hate to say it to you, Ricky, but you have an opportunity to be a 2-3 team coming out of these 5 weeks.
I was thinking it. I was even thinking worse than that.
Of 1-4?
I could see 1-4 after the first 5. Everyone, even myself, being like, "Oh my God, what's going on with this team?" But to me, it's everything after week 5. All we have to do is survive the first 5 weeks. If we get out of those first 5 weeks 2 to 3 wins, I'm happy with that. 3 wins is ideal. 2 wins is at the least is what I'm happy with. But then after that, Cardinals win, Jets win. I'm gonna say that Lions game win. The Saints won, up in the air only because I want to be confident that we'll win that Sunday night, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints won it. The Bears are a winnable team. Packers at home, I think we can beat. The Dolphins should be a winnable team. The only big question games after that are the Saints, Patriots, and Seahawks.
Yeah. I think that the risky thing for you is, as I play around with it right now, is I actually had you guys losing both Rams and Eagles just because it's away games. If I had you beating the 49ers, the Packers beat you guys for the first one. I have you splitting. If I switch that 49ers one, that would be the thing that would make you 9-7, knock you out of the playoffs. I don't necessarily think that's the way it's going to go.
I don't see us, like, if we go 10-6, that sky is falling. We're like, sky is falling what has happened this year.
Any given Sunday.
I see us more as a 13-3, 11-5 team.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure, because this is a team that a normal year, this team would be a Super Bowl favorite. But you're competing against Patriots dynasty, the Eagles, the Rams, who look like they're really good. Drew Brees is making his last push for one more Super Bowl ring. There's an abnormal amount of really, really, really good teams that we're going to remember for a long time.
This is what we get for being a part of the NFC.
Yeah.
Where you look at the AFC and it's basically,
I only mentioned one team.
Like, to compare it to basketball, the NFC is basically the Western Conference of football, where it's basically the toughest division, and then you look over into the AFC and it's like, well, it's either going to be the Patriots, Steelers, or Jaguars. Take your pick. Like, oh, the Broncos could be better this year, but in the end, it's probably will be Patriots, Steelers, and Jaguars will be the three favorites and the three teams that people pick to win the Super Bowl or win the AFC to represent that conference in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Any final thoughts you got on the Vikings or the NFC North as a whole?
NFC North, I mean, everybody's going to beat each other up so badly. It's going to be fun. It really will be a lot of fun. This is one of the toughest. This and the AFC South are usually the toughest divisions in football. Am I right? Because the AFC, no, I wouldn't say the AFC South is the toughest.
I would say like they are usually teams where it's like on really good years. It's been
a while since the Titans have been good. The Colts have not been that good for a while either. Besides Andrew Luck's 2 years of being good.
When they're a good conference,
and when Andrew Luck was there, the Texans were bad and the Jaguars were bad.
When they're a good division,
yeah. When anybody's a good division, it's a tough division.
There have been more times where that division it's been like, wow, last place is 8-8 in that division.
The AFC South,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but I remember more years where there was a clear-cut winner in the AFC South, or everybody was bad.
I'm just saying, like, overall.
I'm saying the NFC South is maybe what you should be thinking about. But,
no, they just can't decide who wants to win each year. Like, that's the thing where it's like, who won that division? Who won it last year?
And you're out.
They're not going to win it this year.
AFC East had that thing going on, too. You know, those are... I might have said AFC, I meant NFC East. There's been a lot of them.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below. The camera has gone dead, so you're looking at our logo. Let us know what you think about the Viking season down below in the comment section. Is it Super Bowl or bust? Am I freaking out as a Viking fan? And should I just be like, woosah, woosah, Ricky, just chill. Everything is going to be okay. Don't freak out. The season has not started yet. There's plenty of time for that. Want to thank you guys for listening and watching to the Onside Kick this week. A little bit of housekeeping here at the end. Make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast to help support the channel more so than you guys are already doing. Make sure to check out our store down below in the description to get your hands on one of our hot MVP t-shirts. You can also get that at mostvaluablepodcast.com. It's also where you can catch MVP each and every day. Also, do not forget to go and rate us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Give us that 5 stars and then let us know why you like listening to the podcast so much each and every week. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening this week. Mark and I will be back next week talking about the AFC South, that same division that Mark was kind of throwing some shade at here at the end of this podcast.
I stand by what I said. It's not as good of a division as you want to say it is.
We will be talking about the AFC South next week. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody.